Joining me now is his Assistant Trade and Manufacturing Minister, Tim Ayres. Tim, great to see you. You're in Indonesia on a trade mission, but back home it's all happening. How are you feeling? How comfortable are you with this broken promise and the fact that Anthony Albanese publicly lied to the Australian people for so many months?
G'day, Laura. Well, I don't think it's too late to say Happy New Year. It's very good to be on the show. Of course, I'm here in Jakarta. I've seen the announcement, and I understand that the Prime Minister is going to provide much more detail about Labor's plan to tackle the cost of living, in particular through the tax system. This announcement about a modification of the Stage 3 tax cuts is good news for all tax-paying Australians. It means that circa 14 million Australians who pay income tax, everybody in Australia gets a tax cut, a substantial tax cut.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's a reweighting of these measures, and it's a responsible thing to do. It is not for the government a matter of politics, the cost of living issues that face middle-income Australians. It is a matter of developing the right policy response, and this announcement that means that middle-income Australians, nurses, truckies, teachers get a more substantial tax relief is good news in terms of the cost of living, and it will make it easier for families to deal with those cost of living pressures.
Tradies, miners, train drivers are not in that category. If it is so good and not about politics, as you say, why didn't you take it to an election and seek a mandate?
Well, the tax cut measures are scheduled to occur in July, and this
proposal,
which will be legislated in time for July, will mean that Australians get relief this year. And the cost of living pressures have been on Australians since early 2022. And while inflation growth has moderated, and we are seeing some improvements in the inflation position, the job is not done yet. And the measures that the government's undertaken here just part of a suite of measures. You saw all of the things that the government did last year in terms of cost of living, on rent relief, improvements to Medicare, childcare, downward pressure on energy price rises. All of those measures have been undertaken. But this opportunity to modernise the Stage 3 tax cuts, get them up to speed.
It's not modernisation, though, is it, Tim Ayres? It's not modernisation. You couldn't even call it tax reform. I mean, you're just keeping a bracket that was going to be abolished. And you're there in Indonesia. You travel for most of the year. The tax bracket in Australia, the highest tax bracket at 45 cents in the dollar, now kicking in at 190,000. In comparable countries, that doesn't kick in until much higher. In the UK, it's around 260 grand. In France, it's almost 300 grand. How do you justify that?
Well, the government's focus is on middle-income Australians. That's where the cost of living pressure is. Some people argue that it's not tax reform unless it's targeted at the highest incomes. Well, the government is focused here.
That's not the argument.
On middle-income,
the argument is
Australians.
This doesn't do much about
everybody in the
bracket
tax
creep.
system.
And millennials will be smashed under this plan over the next 10 years.
Everybody in the tax system here, in the income tax system, PAYG tax earners, almost 14 million of them gets a tax cut. Now, it is true that 1 million of those taxpayers get a slightly lower tax break than they otherwise were going to get. But Australians right through the system, including, importantly, low and middle income Australians, get a much fairer, much better deal through this. And this is the right time to be delivering this kind of moderate, sensible reform that is going to make sure that that people find the cost of living pressures easier to deal with.
Is it fair to say, you live in Sydney, your electorate office is in Redfern, in the inner city, is it fair to say that, you know, what was factored in here by those, perhaps, you know, a 35-year-old male with 2 kids and a wife that is raising those children and doesn't work, they were factoring that tax cut in. Now they're going to get half. Do they need help?
Well, everybody will get a tax cut. And for most of the people who you describe, almost all of them, Laura, the tax cut that they will get because of these measures will be larger than the tax cut they would have otherwise got. The tax measures that Scott Morrison designed in 2018, you know, we are in circumstances now where the cost of living issues that have faced families need action, not words, need action. And we're not doing what's politically expedient here. We're doing what's in the interests of ordinary middle-income Australians, and it's going to deliver real, tangible benefits.
Well, why didn't you do it a year ago when inflation was really biting?
Well, these measures were determined by the Cabinet earlier this week. The Prime Minister will set them out in detail. The Treasurer has been up and about over the course of the last 24 hours, setting out the rationale for these, including releasing the Treasury advice on these questions. The government has been absolutely open and transparent about the rationale for this decision and about what the impact of this decision is going to be.
Transparent.
At the end of the day, what this will mean is that ordinary Australians do better out of stage 3 than they were going to do before. This will be a very welcome announcement in most households around Australia. That is for sure.
Yeah, sure. Well, we'll see the fruit of that perhaps in the Dunkley by-election. But I've just got to say that Anthony Albanese has been open and transparent here, that is really hard to swallow, because he's been asked 100 times since the election alone whether he will be tinkering with keeping stage 3 tax cuts. So he has said yes, that hasn't changed, our position hasn't changed multiple times, even over the last couple of months. We now learn that that's not true. He was telling the Australian public one thing whilst working on these changes behind the scenes. Why should we believe anything that he says at the press club today?
Well, the easy thing to do here would be to ignore the reality that is there for households and families. This is not about what is politically expedient. This is about what is in the interests of ordinary Australians, pay-as-you-go income tax earners, and what it does do is deliver much bigger tax cuts for them and tax cuts for everybody in the system. The government is being absolutely open and transparent about the rationale, about the impact, and we will be out there over the course of the coming weeks and months explaining what this means for ordinary Australians. Now, the political dimensions of this, you know, it would be, as I say, this is not about us doing what is politically expedient. Peter Dutton and Susan Lee and Angus Taylor are going to have to explain to Australians what their alternative plan is. What are they proposing to do? Are they going to take the money off nurses and teachers and truckies and miners and carpenters and building workers? Are they proposing to reweight, you know, to push the original stage 3 tax cuts? All that the opposition has at the moment is carping negativity and the nasty politics. What we are engaged with is not the politically expedient stuff. It's the stuff that makes a difference at kitchen tables in the suburbs and regions right around Australia. And we're going to keep governing in that way.
It seems politically expedient, I've got to say. Team Ayres will let you get on with your trade mission over there in Jakarta. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Laura. See you soon.